HubSpot user group in 2024. Today we're going to talk about how to utilize calculated properties in your HubSpot setup. So just for everyone new joiners, we are a lot today. I just want to quickly say what this HubSpot user group is about. So this HubSpot user group has been around for approximately 2 years. We have created it for you guys to learn from proven cases of inbound-driven success, to get to share some HubSpot practices, of course, to support your growth journey, but also to meet other fellow inbounders. So since this is a fully digital format, you are more than welcome to use either the chat or the Q&A just to say where you're from and what you hope to get out of today's session. And also the Q&A is enabled for you guys to ask questions throughout the user group today, and I have Noah with me that will help me look into all the questions, so we will answer them at the Q&A at the end of the session. And just to say also, this Nordic SaaS HubSpot user group is of course a community-led, but it's a non-commercial initiative. So it's something we built together with HubSpot, but again, it's non-commercial. It's much more of a group to meet fellow inbounders. So quickly, just a little bit about me. And I'm a co-founder and commercial lead here at Helium B2B. I have approximately 8 years of experience with HubSpot and inbound strategy for B2B companies, and I have been the leader of this HubSpot user group ever since we started it. And also, we just launched another one, more focused on manufacturing. So now we have 2 HubSpot user groups. So if you know anyone else who is in the manufacturing business, they are more than welcome to join those sessions as well. So what we're going to run through today is just fairly quickly talk about properties in general in HubSpot. Then we're going to talk about calculated properties. We're going to walk through some different use cases. And of course, then we also are going to look into how you can actually utilize calculated properties within your HubSpot setup. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A. So as I said before, please just put in all the questions that you might have, and we will take them at the end of the session. So if we deep dive a bit into properties and properties overall in HubSpot, a property stores information about your objects. So that can either be a contact, a company, deal, or ticket within your HubSpot CRM. And of course, this also relates to custom objects. So if you have built some sort of custom object in your HubSpot setup, that will also have properties tied to it that you can customize and build however you want inside your CRM. So properties are used to collect and store specific data points, both from interactions and relationships with your customers and leads inside of HubSpot. When we look at the types of different properties, we of course have some default properties or standard properties that are provided by HubSpot, such as email, phone number, company name. Again, HubSpot provides a lot of standard properties across all objects. And then we also have custom properties, and these are user defined, so they are built by yourself or maybe an agency if you work with one. And these are created to meet more specific business needs. So let's say as a software as a service company, you have built an integration to your software platform. Usually you need to create a bunch of custom properties to make sure that you actually sync the right data from your SaaS platform into HubSpot, and also vice versa if you have an integration that goes both ways. So these are the different types of properties that we have in HubSpot. And actually calculated properties is both a standard object. So HubSpot already utilizes calculated properties in their setup or in some of the standard properties, but you can also build calculated properties yourself. And that is what we're going to deep dive more into today. So again, you can use properties in many different ways, and you can also manage and customize them. So whenever you want to build new properties, you can build them across your objects, but you can also put them into different segmentations if they are, contact information, contact activity, web analytics, and so forth. And always, if you want to build properties, you will always go to the back end of HubSpot to create them. What is really important to remember when working with properties is that you always store the information on the correct object. So if it's information related to a company, of course you need to store it on the company and not on the contact, just to make sure that your data is accurate and you have the right overview inside your CRM. So when we talk about calculated properties, we call them more like a hidden gem, because in our experience working with a lot of B2B companies, when we start working together with them and, we take over the HubSpot setup, not that many are actually utilizing calculated properties. And also because it's more of, a bit of a hidden gem inside of HubSpot, also because before they changed the different subscriptions from Pro and Enterprise, you were only allowed to create 5 calculated properties with a Pro subscription. So a lot of things have changed here, and we're gonna touch a bit upon that as well. But in our experience, not that many companies utilizes calculated properties, but they do a lot of different calculations, in sheets. And in our experience, it's a very good idea to take, some of the calculations that you most likely are doing in a sheet and move that into HubSpot into calculated properties. So we're gonna dive a bit more into that now. So when we think about calculated properties inside of HubSpot, the definition of calculated properties is that it uses a formula to determine the value based on the values of other properties, right? So if you have a calculated property, you will always utilize some of your other properties inside of HubSpot to actually create some sort of formula to determine a value. So you will always use other properties when working with a calculated property. And also when you work with calculated properties, there are some different types of calculations. So you can either use a formula, you can use date calculations. So let's say you have, your a create date or a last contact date, and you want to find, how many days are in between. That is how you can calculate on date properties inside a calculated property. And you can also do text calculations. So there is some different types of calculations that you can utilize whenever you want to create a property. But as I said before, rule of thumb, you always need to remember that when building a calculated property, you are basing that calculated property on other values inside of HubSpot. So again, data accuracy is quite important if you want to make sure that the accuracy of your calculated property is actually the right value, and also maybe the right KPI for your business in terms of which formula and what you want to achieve with this calculated property. So there is of course, some different benefits again by using calculated properties. So as I said before, data accuracy. So you can ensure that calculations are consistent and error-free, so you don't have to do them manually anymore. I think we all have had the feeling of sitting in a spreadsheet trying to calculate lifetime value, customer acquisition cost, stuff like that, based on data we already have inside of HubSpot. So here could be a very good idea to set up a calculated property based on some of your other properties inside of your CRM to make sure that you have the correct and consistent data. Also, efficiency, so it saves some time, of course, that you can automate calculations that you're doing every month. So let's say if you're doing very specific reporting to your board or your team every month or end of month, again, could be a very good idea to move some of those calculations into your CRM. Based on some of the data points you already have. And then, of course, calculated properties are also dynamic. So this means that the values are updating automatically as the underlying data changes. So again, this means that if you have a calculated property based on, let's say, 2 contact properties, every time these contact properties are updated, your calculated property will update automatically based on that data. So again, calculated properties are also dynamic, so they will change whenever you have new data stored in the underlying properties. And just a few examples. So if you want to create a calculated property, you can, for example, create a deal value property that multiplies if you're selling, more units, or you have unit prices to automatically calculate your total deal size. And again, these are just examples. You can utilize whatever specific properties or custom properties you have built in your deal setup or in your deal pipeline to do these calculations. And then, of course, again, you can also calculate days to close by subtracting deal start date from deal close date. So again, you can see we both have, formulas here, and we also have text calculations. But we will deep dive into even more examples. So as I said before, there has been restrictions on calculated properties, also why we have actually called it this hidden gem, because not that long ago, it was only available in Pro and Enterprise licenses. It still is. But in Pro, you now have 25 calculated properties, and that was upgraded from 5. So this is kind of one of the reasons why we haven't seen that many calculated properties when working with our customers, because, that there wasn't that many to play around with, and a lot of people don't even know that they actually exist. And if you're on an enterprise license, you have 200 calculated properties. So you have a lot of calculated properties to start playing around with, and even also, really upgrading your reporting setup and all your average, average deal size, everything like that. You can put that into calculated properties, display it inside your CRM, display it inside your deal stages or deal pipeline, and even also in your reports. So again, for everyone sitting on a Pro license, you now have 25 calculated properties within your subscription, not only 5 anymore. Okay, so if we deep dive a bit more into which use cases we have in software as a service, I just took a few ones, but you can build. These are the ones that we have been working with a lot with our customers. So for example, you can do advanced lead scoring. So we all know that HubSpot is built with this standard property called HubSpot Score, that when you can go in and you can, set your rules for engagement, but the HubSpot Score is built a lot on engagement. So let's say you want to do a more advanced lead scoring, and you want to utilize, both engagement scoring from a marketing perspective. We want to look into, how many are actually opening our emails, clicking in our emails based on a lead nurture flow, downloading our content, spending time on our website. And maybe also meeting specific criteria, such as a specific life cycle stage, a specific lead status. It can be lots of different things that you normally would put into this HubSpot score. But what we have done a lot lately is that we have combined the HubSpot score, so an engagement score, again, based on the content engagements that our prospects are doing. And then we have created a new scoring property, so you can actually create custom properties based on scoring, and then we build what we will call more like an ICP score, so actually setting up our ICP criteria as well in a different scoring property. So then we both have, the engagement score, the HubSpot score, and then we have created a custom property based on ICP, where we score, do they meet our persona? Do they have the right job title? Are they in the right industry? Is the revenue the correct one? And what we have actually also done here is that if you have third-party data integration, we all know that HubSpot have acquired Clearbit, but there is also other providers out there as Apollo and Vino and a lot of different third-party data integrations into HubSpot. You can actually utilize these custom properties that are created through a third-party integration, and you can utilize them in a scoring property as well. So we you can actually go in and build a quite advanced ICP scoring in a property based on the data you're syncing directly into HubSpot. And this is going to be very interesting when the whole Clearbit is really rolled out, so we can start really utilizing this third-party data, because then we can also look into, which sort of management system do they have for their website? Do they have any specific web technology we want to scrape? That's a very good fit for our business. Do we, we could also look into revenue. We could also look into how many website visits they have. There is a lot of different data points based on which third-party provider you choose. But you can create that into another scoring property. And then you can actually create a calculated property based on the engagement score and the ICP score, where you build a way. So you can say, I want the ICP to weigh 70%, and I want the engagement score to weigh 30%, vice versa, 50-50, however you want to do it. And then you can create that calculation in a custom calculated property called lead scoring, or, revenue scoring, whatever you want to call it. And in that way, you can actually combine both an engagement score and an ICP score and create your very own lead scoring with a way that you can use to, prior your sales lead or rotate your sales leads, send them into a specific sequence. So there is a lot of different possibilities if you want to combine even more data into calculated properties. And I think that, as I said before, HubSpot is built with this specific HubSpot score, of course, but you have the possibility to create all the scoring properties from scratch as you want. So this is also very interesting to look into, especially if you have, and I all know we are in B2B, right? So we actually have, very specific criteria for ICP, very specific products. So there is a lot of opportunity here to actually go in and score your lead score, your companies, and really make sure that sales are working the right prio on those leads, they get rotated the right way, and everything in between. And that ties directly into deal scoring for sales prioritization, right? So again, you can, create custom deal properties. You can utilize some of the ones that are standard in HubSpot, but also to build this sales prioritization, right? So as I said before, based on if you build your own custom lead scoring on a calculated property, you can also then create, a custom property for sales prioritization based on that lead scoring. So you can actually build a lot of customized, very great ways to work based on the data you have inside your platform and based on your very specific criteria. And the same goes with customer lifetime value, right? So if we have the average purchase order and we know, how long they stay before they churn, how often we upsell them, stuff like that, we can also start really, calculating our customer lifetime value, and the same goes for our customer acquisition cost. All these things based on the specific formula you choose for your company can actually be built and utilized in a calculated property. And, customer lifetime value, customer acquisition cost, a lot of companies have different formulas for these specific KPIs. So again, calculated properties is a very great way to actually build that specific formula that works for you. So some are looking into, both what are the cost, our ad spend, what are the cost of marketing, what are the costs for HubSpot, what are the costs for sales. Some companies, they take all those amounts and to actually create these KPI numbers. Again, others, they just take, what is the cost of marketing, what is the cost of our ad spend. So it varies a lot how many things that you need to take into account to actually report on these KPIs. So again, calculated properties, very great way to build your own formulas that matches the way you do reporting inside your own business. Yeah, so actually how to use these calculated properties. We already touched a bit upon it, but now we're going to deep dive a bit more into it. So as I said before, calculated values are based on properties of selected records and associated records. So this is just a screen dump, and we're going to jump into our HubSpot demo portal so I can show you live how to actually create a calculated property. But there is some different, you need to take you need to set up specific criteria when you create this calculated property, and you actually both have the possibility, to select records, but you also have the possibility to do calculated properties on association labels as well. But I think association labels can almost have its own hug, because there is a lot of you can dive into there as well. But when talking about calculated properties, there are a lot of different types. So either you need to set a minimum. So you need to display the minimal value of the selected number property on associated records of the selected object. So just to go one back here, you have the calculated property type on top. So there you need to select which sort of property type in the calculated property am I going to create right now. So we have a minimum type. We also have a maximum type. So displays the maximum value of the selected number property on all associated records to the selected object. Then we also have a count. So this one counts the total number of associated records of the selected object that have the value for the number property selected. So again, we can either display the minimum value, the maximum value in our calculated properties, or we can make it count, each time there is, we take a box, the calculated properties will count, another number. So this one would just go up, go up, go up. This could be, for example, if you are building some sort of count based on how many leads are, utilizing your freemium, or how many times they log in, or whatever, you can build that into a count. So it will just, just count up. We also have a sum. So this one sums up the values again for the selected number property on all associated records. We also have an average. So this one is used to calculate the average of the values. This one is used a lot if we want to see what is the actual, average deal size, or what is the average lead score. It could be a lot of different things. And then we also have the time between. So we can also utilize calculated properties to calculate the time between two dates. This one is always being used whenever you have two different date properties and you want to calculate, how much time is there in between. And as I said before, this could be, when a deal was created, deal create date, last time of contact, and so forth. So if you want to see how much time is there in between to maybe set up, some sort of automatic notification or a task to your salespeople, this is the way to go. And then, of course, we also have the custom equations. So you can also create properties that calculate values based on your own criteria. And this is where the spreadsheet comes in, because a lot of people, of course, are using spreadsheets to do a lot of reporting. And this is where you can actually build your own custom equations inside of HubSpot to do a calculated property. So if you remember what I said before when I was explaining, how you can take your HubSpot score or engagement score, create your own ICP score, and then create a calculated property for your new lead score. Well, if you want to do away here of 70-30, this is where you want to use the custom equation to tell HubSpot in the calculated property, take the amount in this one, weigh it 70%, take the amount in the other property, weigh that 30, and then give me the number of the actual, sum of that. So that is when you can use a custom equation. And again, as I said before, if you want to do CAC, if you want to do customer lifetime value, custom equation can be a very good way to go to set that up inside of HubSpot as well. Yeah. So again, I'm not saying that you need to slowly kill your spreadsheet, but there will be some way to at least minimize what you're doing in spreadsheet, move it into HubSpot. if you have those very specific equations that you are currently calculating somewhere else. Yeah, and as I said before, HubSpot is already using calculated properties in the standard setup. So we already have, how many contacts are unworked, how many leads are open, time from, time to marketing qualified lead, time to sales qualified lead. So there is a lot of calculated properties already within HubSpot that are also, being always being updated in a very dynamic way. So just to say, calculated properties are not something new, but there is not many B2B companies out there actually utilizing them in their own setup or building their own calculated properties. Yeah, so if you want to set up a calculated property, you need to navigate your HubSpot account settings. Under properties, create new calculated property and define its formula using the formula editor. And then, of course, there is also a formula validation tool to ensure the accuracy before saving. So if we just jump into our HubSpot demo account, I will just show you how to actually do it. So as an agency, we are very lucky that we have a demo account. So everything you will see in here is dummy data, but it's a really great way to show you how you can actually build it. So if we go into the backend and we find properties on the left-hand side here, you can see now we're in our property overview. And again, we can select what object we want to create this calculated property on. And then we go to create property. Then, of course, we have our object type up here. We need to select our group. So let's say I want, it's under contact activity because I want to build my own lead score. Okay. And of course, if you are very good at HubSpot, you will always put in a description, but I'm not going to do that right now. So if we move to next, you need to select your field type. And if you scroll down, you will see under values, you can do calculations. So if you tap this one, now you can build your actual calculation. So again, now we're in building my lead score property up here. You can see we have a custom equation. You can also do minimum, max, count, sum, average, time between, as I showed you before. So here you need to select the very specific property type that you want to create. Then you can choose what is your output type. Right now it's a number, right? Because I want to test out to build this specific lead scoring based on some other values. So again, down here you have the actual possibility to create your own formula. So what we could do is that we could just, for the fun of it, we could actually look into what I said before about the 30-70 rule on our lead score. So let's say we want 0.x, and now we want to insert our property. Then here we can search for a property. So I want to take my HubSpot score. Oh. And then you can do the weigh again. So now we want our engagement score to weigh 70, and we want our ICP score to weigh 30. Then we will go in here, and I already created this one just for fun. So we can also build that. And then, of course, you have formula guidance. You can put in sample, input, output. You can test your formula. You can create your scoring. So there is a lot of different ways to do this. And again, you can build custom equation, minimum, maximum, however you want to do it. And then you can just create your property, and you can also test it out. And again, you can put, disable or enable your formula guidance, so you will get all the help that you want. So this is just a way that you can really play around with it, just to make sure, okay, do I need to do custom equations? Do I need to do, again, minimum, max, count, sum, however you want it. And then under insert, you can insert different properties, of course, related to the object that you are creating this property on. So now I can choose contact properties because I chose the contact object when creating this specific property. So let's just jump right back into our slides again. Yeah. So just to say before, if we want to dive into some different examples, we have the lead score. You can do a lot of different variations on a lead score. You can weigh, specific interactions like emails, website visits, scores from downloaded content, and you can calculate it in a formula, or you can do, as I just said before, create different scoring properties and then create a calculated property with a different way based on those scoring properties. Again, it can be done in very different ways. It depends on what matches your business. Then you can do average purchase value. Again, it's a formula, and here the purpose is to compute the average amount spent per order, to actually understand what our customer spending habits, time in between, last contact date, deal close date. So how long does it take for last time we contacted a specific lead to when the deal was actually closed. Again, we can do the lifetime value, and also you can also do concentration of text fields. So you have the possibility to actually merge first name, last name if you want to utilize that in your emails or communications. So you can also do that for text fields, which can be a quite good idea if you want to, again, utilize that in some sort of personalization. So again, a lot of different examples. I think, at least from my perspective, it's a good idea maybe to start a bit small, play around with it. And I think it's also, of course, tricky to really, nail what is the best lead score setup for my business. But I think having the possibility not to rely on either, the HubSpot score or, the predictive scoring inside of HubSpot, but actually being able to build, a custom setup based on engagement and ICP, and then do your own specific way is way more advanced and way more accurate for your business than just, again, as I said, relying on the HubSpot score, or at least the predictive scoring inside of HubSpot already. And then, as I said, there is a lot of possibility to do average amounts, average values based on all your deals, on your deal pipelines as well. And again, if you want to do if you want to do a forecasting model, or even some reporting that are just a bit more advanced, I think these average numbers is also a very good idea to set those properties up instead of doing those calculations in a spreadsheet, at least. Yeah, so also things are also happening on the calculated property side inside of HubSpot. So this part of HubSpot is not static at all. HubSpot is releasing new betas, but they are actually also sunsetting some old stuff here. So just so this is a area of HubSpot that are also being developed on, being built on, and now they have also added deal stages to calculated properties and so forth. So after they made it possible to do 25 calculated properties inside of pro subscriptions, beside the 5 that was there before, they have really also tried to enable HubSpot customers to utilize this part of HubSpot even more. So as I said, you're missing out if you're not playing around with this tool right now. So hopefully some of you have gotten some inspiration to do so. And I think it's also very important to say that, of course, we have recorded the whole session, so you can rewatch it, but you will also get the slides after we're done, so you can dive a bit more into some of the examples, some of the custom equations and stuff like that that are already in the slides. And then we have 10 minutes left for the Q&A. So hopefully there is different questions in here. I can see we have one. So we have
Andy also has a question in the chat.
And Andy also has a question in the chat. Perfect. So there is one about Clearbit. Let me just see here. Yeah. So okay, the question is around Clearbit and also around GDPR. I think I'm not in the right position here to actually give you legal advice, but more and more users within the Nordics are using Clearbit, but not from a contact perspective. So what they're using is the third-party data to enrich the company side of the businesses, because there has been a lot of questions around GDPR and actually putting in contact data, or at least enriching contact data. So before Clearbit, and also before Clearbit was acquired by HubSpot, a lot of users and a lot of customers in Nordics at least were using Vino as a third-party integration, and Vino was also only enriching on a company level due to, as the same here, GDPR restrictions. So I think if you're looking into acquiring or buying some sort of third-party data, you need to be aware with your DPO if you can go with Clearbit or not, and how you want to utilize it at least. But and as I said before, it's going to be very interesting once Clearbit is fully rolled out to see how it's being handled in the Nordics. I'm very used to working with Vino, and at least the data that we are enriching companies with, data that is accessible for everyone, you could say, and it's also being scraped from websites such as what is the content management system, which shop modules do they have on their website, and so forth. So again, a very great way to enrich your data. And then there was one in the chat. Let me just see here. Yeah, so I think that was a very concrete example of using weight formula. So I think I went over it a couple of times, but how we have been using weight formula has been to create a more specific lead scoring. So as I said before, if you have the engagement score based on content engagements, at least if you have an opt-in to track it, you can take that as a separate score. Then you can create a new score property based on ICP values. So making sure that this specific lead is ticking your box in terms of industry, in terms of job title. And again, as I said, if you're using third-party data enrichment, now you can also see, are they ticking the box of revenue? Are they ticking the box of content management system, or whatever matches your product? You can put that in a separate score. Then you can create a calculated property based on an engagement score and an ICP score and put in a way. So let's say you are spending, you're creating a lot of campaigns, you're spending at least some money on buying leads, on LinkedIn or Meta or whatever. Maybe you want to weigh those marketing generated leads a bit higher than you want to weigh only the ICP scoring based on the third-party data. So as I said before, then you can do a custom equation, weighing the engagement score maybe 70, weighing the ICP score 30, to make sure that the leads we're actually buying and the leads that are engaging with us through our content, that they will zip through the lead score a bit faster than the ones that are only ticking the boxes based on our third-party data enrichment or based on our ICP properties inside of HubSpot. I can't see any more questions, so I think
Nikolai, he asked, do you have an example on how to set up the ICP score property, what to include, etc.?
Yeah, so actually last year we did a HubSpot user group on lead scoring as well. It wasn't as nerdy as this one, but we have, of course, some examples, and we also have a matrix that you can download on our website. So when we send out the recording, we will add that matrix as well, just to get an understanding of how you can actually set up the scoring, and also how you can weigh, some content engagements and third-party data, or at least ICP scoring as well. But I think if you want to play around with calculated properties, I would separate them into 2 different scoring properties. So create one specific for engagement, create one specific for the ICP, and then you can do your custom equation in a calculated property, creating that specific lead score, just to do it a bit more advanced, but also a bit more accurate in terms of if they're actually, a very good customer, or at least a potential very good customer.
I'm linking the ICP scoring blog post also.
Perfect. I think that was it for today. Thank you for joining. Nice to see so many newcomers, and stay tuned for our next one. I think we might go down the route of talking association labels, because you can actually also utilize association labels in your calculated properties. Have a nice day, everyone.